What do you know? Is there any chance you'll be meeting with Abrego Garcia while you're there?
Well, we're actually about to do a press conference to speak a little bit about this, but we got word at the embassy that our request has been denied by the government here locally. They say it's because we're not here on an official capacity. This is part of the reason why Representative Robert Garcia and I sent a letter to Chairman Comer of the Oversight Committee asking for this to be an official CODEL. But we're not giving up. We're going to continue. We have more meetings scheduled for the rest of the day. But part of this, too, is making sure that we keep the conversation alive. We're building off of the trip of Senator Van Hollen, and we're not the first members here, and we're not going to be the last.
Now, meanwhile, the Democrats have a leadership crisis. Bernie Sanders and AOC are emerging as the leaders of the party. These two far-left socialists are holding events across the country, Army, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has raised $9.6 million during the first quarter of the year. That is a significant amount. And Army, she's been spoken about as the leader of the Democrats, not just by leftists like Don Lemon, but also Republicans. Let's hear from Senator John Kennedy from the great state of Louisiana.
What do you think of the new leadership, Jasmine, AOC, and Bernie?
I consider Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to be the leader of the Democratic Party. She's entitled to her opinion. I'm entitled to mine. As I've said about her before, I think she's the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle.
That's a bit harsh. That's a bit harsh, but she certainly is raising enormous sums of money, Army, and seeming like the leader. You've got these two radicals who are setting the agenda for the Democrats.
Yeah, she's raised a ton of money, and alarmingly for the Democrats, 64% of that money is from first-time donors. So she's getting the base excited about her. She's not just raising money; she is essentially the leader. They're doing polling on this. We've talked about it. she's the leader in the polls. I mean, technically right now, Kamala Harris is still the leader in the poll, but that's really more of an aftershock of the election because she led the party. But right after her is AOC. And by the way, number 2 behind her, number 3, Pete Buttigieg is way behind her. Gavin Newsom is in single digits. This should worry the Democrats if they want to win the next election, right? We just had an election. The country shifted rightward, and they are pulling against the tide. Look, we know that the Democrats have had this moment where they've got to figure out who are we, right? The election was such a shock to their system. They had to internally figure out who they are. Well, look, you can't say that the Democrats are held hostage by the left. The Democrats are the left. These polling, and if she leads their party, it proves it, okay? That's the problem, is that they like her policies. They like what she stands for. And she's starting to do some interesting things. She's moving away from some social issues and into economic populism. And let's not forget, look, in 2020, Bernie Sanders, do we forget this? Bernie Sanders was leading this race by a lot. He won Iowa. He won New Hampshire. He won Nevada. The only reason why the tide turned toward Joe Biden is because Congressman Jim Clyburn, at the last minute, said in South Carolina, said, you know what, I'm going to support him. Didn't before, but at the end it was like, Bernie's a little too far. He shifted his support to Biden, which moved the black vote in South Carolina, which is one of the largest, if not the largest demographic and electorate within the Democratic Party. And he won that, and then that cascaded into a win. But prior to South Carolina, it looked inevitable that Comrade Bernie, who vacationed with his wife, or I think his honeymoon, in the Soviet Union, was going to become the Democratic nominee. Let's not forget that.
No, let's not forget also that this proud socialist has 3 properties, as all good socialists do.